Hi, good afternoon. My name is NAlford, and my senior project is Engineering Everyday Lives. So to start with a little bit about me, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I love to go into the woods and hunt, fish, hike, camp, or just practice playing survival skills. This is a picture of me with the largest buck I ever killed that I took this past October. In addition to being an outdoorsman, I also played clarinet in my school's high school marching band and marching band, and I'm also an Eagle Scout with Go16 Troop 710. So for my senior project topic, I chose engineering, and my project is going to get all the different forms of engineering and how we interact with them in our everyday lives. And here we got 6 of the most common forms of engineering. We got aerospace, civil, mechanical, environmental, biomedical, computer engineering. And engineering has always been something I've been very fascinated in. Ever since I was little, I was always the kid that would take things apart. And much to my dad's irritation, I would always take apart his pens and then not understand how to put them back together. Until I learned the golden rule about taking apart pens, and that is never lose the spring. So after I figured out that, it was things went pretty smooth from there. So engineering has been something I've always been fascinated by, and it's always something I've pursued as a potential career topic. But the official jumping off point for my senior project was when I attended the Society for American Military Engineers Engineering and Construction Camp hosted at the United States Air Force Academy. This is me with a couple of my friends I made at the camp. For a week in the end of June to July range, we, me and 100 other students from across the nation went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and we teamed up with some of the nation's leading military and civilian engineers to solve a host of engineering problems. And these problems range from designing a environmentally and economically efficient sprinkler system to designing a concrete beam designed to withstand 2,000 pounds per square inch pressure. And I had such a great time at my camp that as soon as I returned home from Colorado Springs, I teamed up with Delta Airport Consultants in Midlothian, Virginia to do my internship. Delta is an airport contracting firm based out of Virginia, but they also do work in Maryland and Tennessee as well. They design and have construction companies build various projects at airports all across the Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee area. And one thing that really interests me about how Delta operates is that they have a lot of different laws and statutes that they have to work with to satisfy the demands of the building the projects at the airports. Some of these projects that I got to look over were was one to reroute a state road so that this one airport down near the Virginia-Tennessee border, they could extend its runway to allow for jet traffic. And unfortunately, there is a local historical area near the airport, so they not only had to reroute the state road around the airport, but around the historical area as well. So this really interested me because it was an example of all 3 levels of government cooperating to achieve the goal. Another project I enjoyed looking over was one that was to build a ground-level helicopter pad outside this hospital in Virginia. And when I looked at that, I actually noticed a little mathematical error in the calculations that to design the helicopter pad. And the person, Mr. Shell, the person I was working with when he was showing me the helipad design, he actually had me help him redo the design using a computer program called AutoCAD, which I found to be very tedious and long work, just to move the little lines out a little bit. So one particular project that really captured my attention was this one to clear obstructions at an airport in Maryland. The Federal Aviation Administration defines obstructions as any particularly tall object that might pose a significant threat to planes that are coming in and taking off from a particular airport. And in this case, the obstructions were trees. Now, the state of Maryland has a statute that requires for every tree that is removed from a piece of public property, another tree must be planted somewhere else on the property to help fight greenhouse gases and emissions and make sure that our tree population doesn't decline. Unfortunately, the FAA regulations on obstructions didn't allow the airport to plant these trees, place these trees on property. So this represented a clash between the two levels of government here, but also represented a clash between the two very distinct engineering principles. On one hand, you got aerospace engineering with the planes and moving obstructions, conflicting with the principle of environmental engineering and sustainability. The solution that Delta eventually came to solve this problem was actually very simple. The federal government and the Maryland state government agreed that they would just have more trees planted at another Maryland property where they would not be in the way and pose a danger. Unfortunately, not all these issues can be resolved so easily. This experience led me to the focal point of my project. This is a quote by Michio Kaku, and what he's saying here is that nothing is impossible in life. And here he defines engineering as something more than just a new piece of technology. It's more than a computer, it's more than a bridge or airport runway or just trees and animals. Engineering itself is about solving problems. And here in this quote, he was explaining that when you have engineering, nothing is impossible, even though many of us go through our lives spouting out the word impossible like street candy. So I decided to make this the focal point of my project. This is a picture of me with my mentor, John Morgan, right here on the right. And this is Mr. Joseph Shell, whom I worked with on the helicopter design. So after I graduate high school, I'd like to do Air Force ROTC at BMI, and I want to commission to the United States Air Force after that. So naturally, the burning question that I had for my research paper involved the extent to which our nation's military readiness and national defense depended on engineering. This is a very interesting and concerning stat that I found. This is a picture of the American Society of Civil Engineers Infrastructure Report Card. As you can see here, America earned a D+ for the 2013 year. They do this report card every 4 years. And if you look over here in the subcategories, the only category that we scored above mediocre on was solid waste. And as you can see right here, the ASCE predicts that we will need to invest $3.6 trillion in our, to improve our infrastructure by 2020. This is very concerning for me because when I reviewed some of these individual categories, I looked at things like roads and bridges. Most of the bridges in this country are in danger of collapsing. The roads are just congested, as I'm sure you can see every time you go downtown, you drive and you get stuck in a traffic jam. Not only is this wasteful and you're wasting time and gas, but it presents a significant danger to national security. Because what would happen in the event of a natural disaster or terrorist attack or invasion? We would be completely cut off. And this kind of reminds me of the theme of The Walking Dead. If you ever watch The Walking Dead, you can see that the very front of it's a picture of the interstate leading out of Atlanta, Georgia. The outgoing lane from Georgia was completely blocked with vehicles. And as highly unlikely that The Walking Dead is to happen in this world, I did see a connection here where it's very likely that we would face some of these same issues in a similar situation where people will become trapped in disaster areas due to congested roads and collapsing bridges. My research paper depended heavily on the testimony of my uncle, Major Chris Durham of the Virginia National Guard. He's been a civil engineer in the Army National Guard for about 20 years, and when I talked to him, we had a long discussion about these concerning stats about America's infrastructure, and I asked him what he thought the solution was. He didn't. I was expecting him to tell me something. Oh, we need to invest in this technology. We need to, look at what the Japanese are doing or the Russians are doing, with their bridges or with their roads or with their environment. But he didn't say anything like that. In his opinion, the problem with America's engineering is not represented by anything tangible. It lies completely in here with everybody's attitudes about engineering. we just have people that are, we have people in this country that are just not inclined to form the necessary upgrades that we need to our infrastructure. So for my community service, I decided that I was going to try to change the attitudes of the American populace. And I knew I had to do this somewhat young, somewhere way down in the beginning, because engineering is, when you do a major in engineering, it's an incredibly academic and really intensive course. And if you go into a class and talk to rising high school juniors and like, hey, please come out and take engineering at my school, you're not going to have any impact on them, because you're going to have those who are already mathematically and scientifically inclined who are planning to go into that field, and you've got those who aren't. You're not going to make any changes there. So I decided to start my impacting these attitudes at the kindergarten level. And so I teamed up with the mother of our very own Georgie Aldis. Mrs. Aldis is a kindergarten teacher down here at Go16 Elementary School. And she loves doing STEM-related activities with her kids. But unfortunately, because the kindergarten curriculum is so broad, she doesn't exactly have a lot of time to do STEM-related activities with her class. So I designed a computer program that would help target specific skills in specific STEM-related skills in the minds of these young students. And we started with math. And here's a math game I designed. It's very simple addition and subtraction with numbers whose sum is no less than 20. The students have a high score, or have a goal of achieving a high score of 10 in their program. And when I originally showed this to Mrs. Aldis, she explained to me that the math was at a little bit of a too high level for the kids. She said it was more of a second grade level math that was involved. But she said she thought her kids could do it, and I said, let's go ahead and show it to them anyways. And she made the suggestion that we allow the students to use manipulators, which are physical objects that they've been learning to use to help make math not so abstract. So we handed out this for them to calculate, and that would help them with math. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Most of the students did very well with the math. They really got it, and I really enjoyed seeing the looks of excitement on their face whenever they got a question right. It was the best thing in the world to me. I really enjoyed that. Here's the other game I created for them. This is a measuring game. They have a ruler down here at the bottom of the screen, and a simple object, classroom object will pop up, and I'll ask them to input the measurement of the object in there into the little text field there. And this is a very science and math related activity that Mrs. Aldis had said the kids were having some issues with. So I decided I would integrate this in my project as well. This I think the kids enjoyed a lot more than the math. This is a picture of some of Ms. Aldis' kids working with the computer program. As you can see, they're working with the little manipulators there to help them fully grasp the math. And as I said, most of the kids were able to get this, and some of them displayed a really keen interest in this stuff. And this is what my project is all about. It's about identifying these interests and building on these interests and getting these kids set on a path to get into the workforce as engineers, because these students will eventually become high-achieving high school students, who will eventually become college students majoring in some form of engineering, who will eventually enter the workforce as an engineer to help solve all of these engineering problems that I discussed earlier. So this, I believe, really signifies the legacy of my project. This is the USS Ronald Reagan. It's probably one of the best-known ships in the United States Navy fleet. And this ship, just like all the other currently active aircraft carriers in the Navy, runs off of nuclear energy. A couple of months ago, my father and I attended an open house at BMI. And my father had the opportunity to talk with some representatives of the Naval ROTC program there. And they explained to him that the Navy is desperate for nuclear engineers right now. And they are going to high schools and talking to rising juniors and rising seniors and saying, hey, we're throwing out scholarships like crazy. Please come. We will pay for your school. We'll give you a full ride. Just come do Navy ROTC, major nuclear engineering, and then serve in the Navy for 4 years. So I think this really shows how beneficial my project can be to not only Houston County, but to the United States and the world as a whole. And this is one quote from my uncle, Major Durham, that I think really defines what I've learned throughout this project. He shared a very personal experience with me about how when he first entered when he first commissioned to the Army Guard, his uniform had a little castle insignia on the lapel. And that insignia was symbolic of an engineer in the military, and they explained to him that you are the ones we will call when we need you. Engineers are expected to solve everything in this country, and they will always be expected to solve everything in this country. And they said, when the chips are down, it's all on you. So my future plans, next year I will be attending the Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, Virginia, where I will be majoring in mechanical engineering. I've decided that I very much enjoy engineering, and after applying to BMI and applying for Air Force RTC, I just know that the opportunities of engineering in the Air Force are just absolutely limitless. So I will be attending BMI Air Force RTC scholarship, and after I graduate from BMI, I will be commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. The best advice that I can give to the rising BRBGS seniors is simply just to keep on trucking. You're going to reach a point in your project, probably several points in, not just your project, but your senior year as a whole, where you feel like you're in this big hole and you're never going to be able to get out. And that's not true. You just got to keep pushing, just keep putting a little more into it. And there's one thing I learned throughout this project is that the more grit and the more guts you put into something, the more surprised you will be when you see how much you can get out of it. So my advice to you is to be engineers in your daily lives and go make the world great. Questions?
So,
Wow.
what made you turn away from being a nuclear engineer when you heard that they were so needed?
I'd already set my sights on, well, actually, nuclear engineering is a subcategory of mechanical engineering. And BMI, they don't offer majors in aeronautical or nuclear engineering. They offer mechanical engineering with concentrations in nuclear and aeronautics. And so I decided to major in mechanical engineering at BMI, not only because it's really the closest way I can get to nuclear or aeronautics, but because it offers a much broader area, much broader skill set for me that I can use when I serve in the Air Force. And a few years down the road, I have the option of determining when I like to get the concentration in aeronautics and the concentration in nuclear. So I just really haven't decided.
Oh.
Mark?
I have more of like a comment. Like my older brother is a civil engineer, and I'd seen that statistic a while ago in the past. So I was talking to him about what time we were driving one day, and I was like, "Man, what's the deal with this? Like, the universities are pumping a ton to get civil engineers. Why is it so bad?" And he looked at me. He's like, "Mark, who does the surveys on the bridges and the roads in America?" I was like, "The ASCE does, right? The American Society of Civil Engineers." He was like, "Yeah, that's right. The American Society of Civil Engineers does." He's like, "Who gets paid if we have bad infrastructure?" I was like, I thought about it for a second. I was like, "The civil engineers do." So he explained to me that there's a bit of a conflict of interest there, and it might grade stuff a little bit worse because it translates into better jobs. So he warned me to always take the statistics with a grain of salt, because he said one of his professors was telling him about they do grade them well just so they get, because it's good for the job security. You know what I mean?
Mark, the only thing that we're good at in this country is recycling food. I'm sorry.
Did you happen to see any other report cards for other countries, or just for?
No, I didn't. This particular stat. This particular stat was recommended to me by my mentor, Mr. Gordy. When I was asking him what I could do for my community service project on my last day of my internship, and he said, go to the American Society of Civil Engineers website and just check it out. Check out their infrastructure and building products. We'll probably not see it.
I'm just curious, and this is kind of a question, like, how many people doing engineering out of this class? Yeah, so
That's good.
we're doing pretty good for engineering. And I'm just curious, and Nathan, I'll kind of direct this back to you. Is that a result of, like, just, I mean, obviously you talked a little bit about your longstanding interest in taking things apart, and maybe putting them together or not. But do you think that you were attracted to, like, this program because of that interest, or do you think this program, and I'm not going to Blue Ridge, has helped to promote an interest in engineering and some of the other things that we've heard about?
It's actually an interesting question because sometimes I do sit down and think, what if I hadn't done this? Would I still be where I am right now? I've often thought that about Blue Ridge. Definitely the opportunity to take AP Bio and calculus and all that. Those, like, even though those the calculus is not AP, is not a Blue Ridge mandated course, they do require us to take those strict courses in each of our core classes. So I think Blue Ridge definitely has had an influence on that because when I was a freshman, I took Algebra 2. I actually I didn't really start. I don't think I really started to really come out and develop an appreciation for math until my sophomore year. Because freshman year, like, I just didn't really enjoy Algebra 2 that much. But then I had Mr. Smith. He taught me all about calculus, and he's probably one of the best teachers that I've ever had to work with in math, and I think that really influenced me as well. So I think that these influences, they just came from a bunch of different areas.
You're done.
Not totally done.